Welcome to Intuitive Human. Our mission is to normalize intuitive experiences for humanity. We're connecting with people just like you, excavating their highly impactful, view-shifting, intuitive experiences, diving deeply into what it actually feels like when you go beyond the veil. In this interview, Mio Santana shares two impactful moments of kinesthetic and clairsentient awareness, where she describes avoiding a childhood accident at age 9 and landing in her body at age 37. We hope you see your own reflection in these stories, empirically proving intuition really does exist, and in such a way so that you may discover your own intuitive human.
My name is Mio Santana. I'm a transformational trainer and coach. I'm 40 years old.
Okay.
The first time this started happening to me, I can remember I was like 9 or 10 years old.
And where were you geographically or in your daily life or routine when this happened?
So I was in my parents' house, in my mom's house, my childhood home, and it was a weekend. It was like a Friday night. One of my friends' parents were taking us out. We were gonna get picked up and go somewhere. It was like some kind of event or party or something. I can't remember what. And I remember I was actually getting ready to go. I was getting dressed. I was walking back and forth the hallway doing whatever I had to do. And I remember thinking like, I can't go, like I'm not going. I'm not gonna go to this. It was a few friends, I can't remember how many. They were gonna pick me up and we were gonna go out. And I was getting ready. I had all intentions and plans of going. But while I was in the midst of getting ready, I remember saying, no, I'm just not going to this. I'm not gonna go. So I remember calling them and saying, don't pick me up. You don't have to pick me up. And they were like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, you're not coming? How could you not come? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm just not going. And I remember it distinctly because it was so odd that I wouldn't be going. Like, how could I not be going to this? Like, this is a fun experience. It's a weekend, you know, they're picking me up. And I remember just thinking, nope, I'm just not gonna go. Like, I just felt it. And so then what ended up happening is that night, I remember I was sitting on the couch watching like HBO or something. I don't even know what the heck I was watching. And I remember thinking, man, I feel like I'm missing out, you know? But at the same time, I felt like a contentness. Like I was like where I had to be. Like I didn't have to be where they were.
Right.
And I remember hearing the next day that they had gotten in a car accident and that the whole night was shot. Like they didn't end up going out. It ruined the night. And I don't recall anyone being hurt. Like nobody really got hurt per se. But I remember that they got in some kind of an accident and the night was like, you know, done. Like they couldn't go out.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the feeling or walking around the hallway and how it just was like this clear kind of no for you not to go? Like, how did that occur?
It was like it's funny because like you can't really put it into words, right? But like, it was just like a knowing, like a weight, like a feeling of a weight that says, I stay here, I don't go. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, it felt like the right thing to do. It felt like the no was like the yes for me. Like it was like, stay here. The only thing I can compare it to maybe would be like, you know, like a pendulum, like when the pendulum swings back and forth and then it comes to like the center, it feels like it's like the center of my pendulum almost. Like it just, my energy just stays there and it says, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Did you use that time as a foundation for kind of knowing things in the future for yourself? Was there like a realization or an epiphany moment being like, wow, I really understood to stay home and then I wasn't in that car accident, and finding a relationship inside of that listening experience, I guess you could say, or feeling experience in this case?
I remember mentioning it to my mom and her saying, yeah, that happens all the time. You know, like if it was no big deal. And I remember making the connection like, okay, me saying no saved me from not being in the accident. My mom experiences this. It's a normal thing. It almost like, it was like, oh, okay, this is part of life. So like I accepted it at that age. Both my parents are Cuban.
Okay.
And my ancestry on both sides comes from Spain.
Does your family have any history of the deeper senses of knowing like this? Like you mentioned, your mom kind of, you know, is accustomed to living life in a particular way, in these ways maybe even. Does it come from your mom's side or your dad's side? Is it a Cuban thing, or like, is there any kind of correlation there?
Just in conversation with my mom, she does have like a sense of like I do. I wouldn't say it's like a practice or like a thing that she is an expert at or anything like that. It's just like a sense of knowing like what to do or what not to do, or a feeling of like, oh, don't go into that room, or don't talk to that person, or whatever. She has like kind of the same thing. And she has told me that my great grandmother used to be like the same way, like had that kind of sense of knowing.
So can you tell us or share with us any other instances where you encountered after that original incident, your intuition kind of whispering things to you, and your relationship with those things as they occurred later in life?
Adulthood now, like in my 20s and stuff, I remember like if I were to walk into a room, I felt like that area over there was like a weird area, like whether there was people there that I didn't want to talk to or meet or anything, or just a feeling of that area. So I would go to this area, or like maybe just the place in general. Like I would walk in and be like, okay, no, not feeling it, turn around and leave. And because I had these other experiences throughout my life, I was more aware of it, more sensitive to it. So I would listen to myself more. I've been able to notice a correlation between when something good happens or something bad happens, and the feeling I have with it, and like being able to like follow it more. Definitely now I feel like I have an internal navigation system, like a guidance system for sure. I knew I had that sense, but I didn't trust it as like a guidance system. I didn't like own it per se.
In your 30s, how did life treat you in your 30s, and what did you come to learn about yourself in your 30s?
My 30s is a very interesting decade. And it's funny because it starts with a 3. And I had a cycle of 3 that occurred to me, where I had 3 situations happen, and 3 situations within each situation that were the same as well. First instance was I had a boyfriend, I had an apartment that I had, and I had a job. Me and the boyfriend broke up. Then I left the apartment where I was living, and then I left the job where I was at. So then a little bit of time passes, I get another boyfriend, another house, and another job. Me and the boyfriend were together for like a year. Again, we break up, I leave the house, and then in that instance, I got fired. And then the third time. So the first time it happened, I was like unaware to it. The second time it happened, I was like, okay, this is happening again.
Getting a little clued in.
Yeah, but I was still kind of unaware. And then the third time it happened, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, why is this happening? Why do I keep fulfilling the cycle, the same cycle, you know? And then it happened a 4th time.
Oh.
Because the ego is such a powerful thing. And sometimes we don't want to learn the lesson that the universe is trying to tell us. So it had to like give it to me one more time. But the last time it gave it to me, it was like really, really like hurtful. It was like the final blow that I needed to wake up. So when the last cycle of 3 happened, where it was my boyfriend, my house, and my job, I was so spent emotionally. I was so tired that I was like, I can't. And I had already started my transformational journey within, where I had already been practicing Buddhism. I had already been, doing different courses and different things that like were bringing me into more alignment with myself, but I still wasn't there yet. And so after these cycles happened, I was so drained and so like suffering, like that word, I was like so in a place of suffering that I just said, that's it. I can't continue. Like I have to change. Whatever it is I've been doing until now hasn't been working. And so at that age, finally, when I surrendered and when I just said, okay, I have to do anything it takes to really get to the bottom of why this is happening, I felt like I landed in my body for the first time in 37 years. Like all before that time, I had been like floating. Like there's a famous image of a person, their body, and then their head is like a balloon, a red balloon floating. That's how I was until age 37. Like I had been just bouncing around. Like I was the type of person that if you asked me what's my favorite color, I didn't know. What do I like to do? I didn't know. I was just completely oblivious to what mattered to me, to what I liked to do. And it wasn't until age 37 that I landed. I really felt, it's like a really weird feeling, because I felt like I physically landed into my body and I can feel myself for the first time. And then after that, I was like, okay, no more. Like, I don't want to fulfill and continue to fulfill that same cycle that I had been all this time. I want to create something new. So that's when I went even deeper inward in my journey.
What kind of led you to landing in your body?
It's a combination of two things of that, which was, one was, the fourth one was like the final blow. It was like if somebody were to punch you in the stomach and take all your air out, it was like that for me. It was like all my air was out. I was
just exhausted.
Disseminated. Yeah, I was just done. And then I was doing transformational work. So in my work, I just went in even deeper.
Okay.
Because I was like, I'm just so miserable, like I can't. And so I went so deep that I really like tapped into like a fountain of like trauma and like backed up stuff that I hadn't been dealing with my whole life, that I had been numb to and numbing myself to, because, you know, through my life I had, you know, been drinking. I mean, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I would drink and I would, you know, do things, go out, drugs, different things to numb myself to like the emotions that I was like actually supposed to be feeling. I was like numbing myself to. So it was until that point that I was actually able to open the floodgates and really feel for the first time, feel all those emotions, go back into like childhood stuff and like work through those things, and tap into those things and also heal those things. A lot of healing occurred for me at that time.
And a lot of times numbing is an agent, we'll say, that keeps you above any of the feelings and the emotion and the messiness.
Yeah.
And how is it being inside of the body?
Yeah, so I mean, if you were to tell me right now, Mio, I'll give you $1 million to go back to where you were 5-10 years ago, or and trade it with where you are now, I'd be like, no, you're crazy. Like, there's no money that you could put on actually being in your body, actually understanding yourself, knowing yourself, accepting your inner guidance, my inner guidance, honoring my inner guidance, because now my intuition is like something that like I value and that I really trust.
It's like a resource.
It's a resource, and it's something that I actually like, I'm trying to become more attuned to.
Yes,
you know?
Yes. At 37, you did all this transformation work, and now you're 40. And so how has it been these last 3 years?
Yeah, so right at the cusp of all that was happening, I was actually in a transformational course to be a transformational trainer.
Okay.
And it was a 9-month course, and up until like right when my whole life crashed for the fourth time, that fourth cycle.
All in the 30s.
All in the 30s, that I had been taking this course, and I said, you know what, no matter what is happening right now, my life could be crumbling, I'm not letting go of this course. Like, I knew, again, with intuition, I knew there was something in that course for me to get. I knew that I was in the right place, that this is what was going to get me through, and this is where I needed to be. Like, there was no question about it. So even though my life was caving in all around me, I was like, this was like my North Star. And so I stayed in the course, but throughout the entire course, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what my story was. Like, all the other students had like their expertise and their, you know, specific thing that they were specializing in. I, throughout the whole course, had no idea what I was going to specialize in. And I kept on asking my mentors, and I kept on wondering, what am I going to do? Who am I going to help? Am I going to help women? Am I going to help kids? Am I going to be this? Am I going to do that? And I had no real clue. And it wasn't until I graduated the course, finished the course, got certified, that I sat there and I was like, I was so frustrated. I was like, oh my God, that's it. Like, I give up. Like, I surrender. Like, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be helping? Like, tell me, because I need to know. Like, I can't continue like this. And I just gave up, and I like put my hands up. And it was like around 2.5 weeks after the course was over, I was kind of sitting there, and the idea just came to me. Like, some people talk about like what channeling is and stuff like that, and I never knew. I could never really understand it, and this is the only way that I've ever experienced channeling, where like the idea just like dropped into my head, like it just popped in there, and it was a completely unique idea that I had never thought of before, and then the entire concept behind the idea came, and then I just started writing it down. I was like, I can't forget this. Like, I need to write it down.
Just straight up downloading from the universe.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay. It was like a download, and I started writing it all down. Divine journey, and I'm gonna help men, women, LGBTQ. I'm gonna, you know, work on with the divine feminine, divine masculine energies, and I just wrote all of this down. And then after all that happened, and it was really fast, I had a sense of peace that came over me, like a sense of like contentment. and like this knowing, like, okay, this is it. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. There was no question whatsoever. There was no doubt. There was no guessing, no wondering. The wondering was over. I had been wondering my whole life.
Yes.
Until that point.
Yes. And would you say that there's any relationship to now the older, more wiser you and this moment of peace, knowing through this download, and then going back, traversing back to your 9-10-year-old self and the car accident moment where you knew before you even got in the car, even went with your friends, you just knew, and even though there was like, oh, I really wanted to, but I'm super clear. Would you say that that's the same quality in those two instances if you were to compare them?
Yeah, totally, because it's like a for sure, I know. Yeah, you can't really compare it to anything else. I can't really put words to it. It's just like a knowing. It's like a clear understanding.
And so we have some rich little nuggets here, I think, with regards to surrender or retreat and clarity and neutrality and peace, and how those can be the qualitative directors on our intuition and which pathways we go and which pathways we choose.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because you made me think of something where oftentimes the intuition, like I'll be proposed a question, like something that I'm approached with that I either get to do or not to do, or it's a question of should I get involved or not, or whatever. And oftentimes I don't necessarily get the information right up front, like the knowing of what to do or what not to do.
Completely, right?
And I tend to, what I do is like that old saying, sleep on it.
Yes.
Like I literally sleep on it, but sometimes I'll sleep on it for 2 or 3 days. Like I won't get the answer of the feeling of like what I need to do until like 2 or 3 days later. And then it's like I wake up one morning and I have the answer, and it's like, okay, don't do it, or yes, do it.
Right.
Like sometimes it's not as immediate.
Right. And I get curious about that in the sense of feeling-based experiential learners, if you can say it like that, or the clairsentient beings, which is what we're talking about with all this like feeling, knowing kind of sense, but it's through like this feeling-based center that you know. And just with like tissues and awareness and even sound can be a great conductor for understanding information in a feeling-based being, that it takes longer. So if we think of it in terms of frequency, a kinesthetic feeling-based frequency could be considered like this, like looser or more loose and slower. Where if we think of a visionary, a knowing, it comes like fast, like flashes. And in a frequency, the frequency is a lot steeper and tighter. So there's more happening in a shorter amount of time, where a feeling-based person, I believe, and in my own experience, it feels like it's spread out a little bit and takes longer time.
Like waves.
Like waves. And when you just mentioned that you got to sleep on it for 2 or 3 days and then it becomes clear, it just reminds me of a more feeling-based approach to understanding and finding clarity, that some of us are a little slower in the world. You know, we just operate at different frequencies. Some people are really fast and some people are really slow, and some people are in between. So tell us a little bit more about the feeling-based information to understand how you feel the information.
Like how this kind of like percolates or develops in me, or how I feel it is definitely like a feeling within my body where sometimes like the hairs on my arms stand up, or I feel like this kind of like little bit of a vibration on the back of my shoulders and my neck a little bit, that kind of perks up my skin or my neck or my, like my hairs on my neck or something, and like perks it up. That tends to happen sometimes when I'm getting like this information about people that, this prescription that I should give them or whatever. It feels like I'm interacting with the person, and it feels like an image, like not images, because I don't see them as images, but like they feel like they're images coming in. Like it's so weird to explain, but like
it's like a no. Sometimes these things get cross-wired. So you could see, feel, know, feel, see, feel. I already said see, feel. Hear, feel, hear. Any of those kind of.
Like a know feel, I think.
Yeah.
Like a knowing feeling. And so it comes to me and like I feel it and then I know what it is that they need.
And so like with the hair that stands up either on your arms or this kind of prickly sense on the neck, would you say it's like goosebumps or different than goosebumps?
It's different than goosebumps.
Okay.
Sometimes I've had goosebumps that it's like clear goosebumps, but like, no, this is different. It's very, very distinct. It's literally like you could feel each little hair stand up.
Okay.
Like they point up and you could feel it. And it's not the bumps. It's not the goosebumps. It's just the hair standing up. And it's almost like this little, like a light, airy breeze kind of comes up and it's like the hair stand up and like you just sense it.
Would you say it has any electrical sense to it? Like, you know how static electricity, you rub the balloon on your hair? And the balloon's like...
A little bit, yeah. A little bit on my right side.
Do you ever feel anything in the torso?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was like leaving that out. I definitely, they say that the gut feeling. I mean, it sounds really cliche. Like a lot of people, you know, blow it off. But it really is a thing. Like
it's a thing.
There really is a gut feeling that I get. And that it's not necessarily, it's like sometimes my stomach, but sometimes my lower, like my sacral, like lower abdomen. Sometimes it's like right, like in the middle, like maybe my heart almost, you know?
Okay. Heart or solar plexus?
Like solar plexus, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, like solar, like right below the heart.
Uh-huh.
When it's in the solar plexus, it's like a knot. It feels like a rope tied that's like just tied in there. And it's like, okay, like don't do it, or you know what I mean?
That's
like,
the bad sign.
Yeah, that's
okay.
kind of like the bad
no
sign. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like sometimes when it comes from like the lower abdomen and the gut, it's like a sense of disgust, like a disgusting, like a, like this is gross, like this is bad, like it's a disgust, like a nausea, like a nausea kind of feeling that like comes up. And there's no reason why I should have nausea and like I haven't eaten anything and I'm, you know what I mean? Like there's no like, you know, biological reason why I should be having that. It's like a sense that comes up for that specific thing.
What does a yes feel like?
A yes feels just like super relaxed, comfortable, like safe, like a knowing, like it's hard because when you say like a knowing, what's the knowing? You know, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, I know I'm okay, like it's okay, you know? So it's just a sense of like peace and comfort and safety.
Okay.
Overall, like my whole body's relaxed. I don't have any tension.
Right.
It happens sparsely enough or like, you know, spread out enough that when it does happen, I know that it's for a reason.
So the final question is, do you feel like intuitive experiences or intuition is reserved for special magical people, or can anybody have it or do it?
That I do feel like everyone has access to this within themselves. I think we're all tapped into an inner consciousness. And I think consciousness is everything. It's like, it's almost like the matrix that we're all connected to, you know? So like, I feel like everyone has connection to that. It's just that because we're so overloaded with different things, and I can only speak for myself, because I've been overloaded with so many things, I wasn't paying attention to it until I was able to clear those things out, surrender, like get in touch with me, that I was able to become more aware to it. But I think everyone has access to this, just on different levels. Like it depends on how deep or on the surface you want to be. So
thank you for sharing your stories with us. We appreciate it and hope that you go out into the world and keep learning as you continue on your journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so then that's the first accident, first occurrence even of the intuition. And so as you're traversing on into life and as a young adult and through your teenage years and things like that, can you tell us if there were any other instances where
Can you tell
any other instances of okay. Take two. This is hilarious because we haven't messed up at all on anybody else's at all.
That's the first time, right?
Yeah.